My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today I want to talk about empathy and how it connects to the Trump assassination attempt that was 2 weeks ago today as I'm recording this. So the first question I would have is it actual empathy if you only can empathize with those people that you agree with? And the answer there is no. That's called selective empathy, where you would empathize only with people from your preferred group or from the people that you value. So selective empathy is more correlated to racism and sexism. It's not actual empathy. So with that, the question that I would pose is, does Donald Trump deserve our empathy? I can answer that very simply. Of course he does. He's a human being. Of course I can empathize as a human being. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be shot at, to be in an environment like that. I mean, incredibly scary. It would be really scary to ever get up in front of a group of people ever again. Like that would be I can't even imagine what that would be. I think all of us can empathize or try to, because none of us are that real famous that would be in a position like that. But I think as a life-threatening event, I think we could all agree that none of us want to be in that position. And I would say that political violence of any kind should have no place in politics, or that type of violence should have any place in anywhere in the world. I think it's disgusting. It's horrible. I don't want to see it. I would not support that in any way, shape, or form. And what you can see here is, after that assassination attempt, immediately, and continuing through now, and probably will continue for a long time, there's a lot of Trump supporters who have incredible empathy for Donald Trump, as they should. But it's really interesting because over the last amount of years, even leading up to just today, when do you see Donald Trump showing empathy for anybody? When do you see his supporters having empathy? Now, I'm sure there's some good person out there that can empathize with people that they don't necessarily agree with. But you don't see it very often. And it seems very, very odd that these Trump supporters are just showing so much care, so much empathy, when most of Trump's popularity is based upon his vindictiveness and his maliciousness. So one of the things I want to look at today, and I'm just going to read this through because I was tired one day and I was doing my cardio. You can tell how slow I was going. So I decided to write a few things down about this. So I'm just going to read this in no particular order. So here's something too. I also have empathy for the firemen who died here. I have empathy for his children. I have empathy for his widow, even the people in the audience. But let's be honest here, okay? Let's have an honest conversation, because here's something I think about. It's hard for me to believe that he's Father of the Year here. Like, think about this. So we have a man who's taking, I believe, obviously his wife, but 2 daughters to go see Donald Trump, to put Donald Trump on a pedestal. He's not just a supporter, he's probably a fan. So he loves this guy. He's there to support him and to be there to see this great human American individual that's up there. But who is he taking his 3 most closest women in his life? Who is he taking them to see? Well, they're celebrating a man who's a convicted sex offender. There's 26 women who accuse him of sexual abuse. He's paid off hookers. He's cheated on all of his wives. He was happy to strip away women's rights. And he's friends with pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. All right. So when we put that together as a man of, say, value and virtue and morals, how do you sell it to your daughters or your wife that this is a good man that should be looked up to? I don't know how you do that. I don't think you can. There's something wrong there. I'm not saying he should have got shot, But I'm just saying, let's really look at the politics here of what's going on. And if you really think that's your man, that's the kind of guy that you think your daughter should look up to, we got to take a look at that. There's something wrong. Let's continue with that. Again, I have great empathy for the widow. I'm a widower. I guess she's a widow. So I've been a widower. So I do empathize there more than most could. Let's be honest. President Biden called her. He called the widow to offer his condolences. Now, the widow, she did not take his call because her husband, she said, is a Republican and wouldn't want her to talk to him. Okay, so this guy, this Republican man, conservative, who kind of is brainwashing this woman to thinking that this sex offender felon is this man that she should be looking up to. Okay, so she refuses the phone call from Joe Biden, which Joe Biden, of course, showed empathy. Yes? Yes. So kind of looking at a Stockholm syndrome kind of thing here in a way. Now, here's the other part about empathy. Trump never called the widow, even though her husband wouldn't be dead if he didn't go to see him. So is that empathy? No, that's less than empathy. As a matter of fact, what did he do? He said, oh, thank God, that I'm still alive kind of thing. God is great because I'm alive. You shouldn't be saying that. That's not empathetic when people go to see you and there's people who got shot and there's somebody who's dead and you're saying God is great because he kept you alive. But those little peons in the audience, they could die or get shot. Who cares? It doesn't add up. Let's continue. Nancy Pelosi, her husband, had his skull fractured by a Republican who broke into the house and started hitting him in the head with a hammer. So what happened there? Well, Trump made fun of him, and he openly talked about it at his speeches, and the Trump supporters all laughed, and they thought it was funny. And Trump Jr. and others, I don't know if Trump himself said this, but his own son said it, so it's pretty close to it. They said he was attacked by his gay lover. So it's not bad enough that the guy's got a fractured skull and is almost died, but now you have to make fun of him on top of that. Where is the empathy? That's right, zero. How much empathy for asylum seekers who walk 1,000 miles to get to the United States for a better life? Well, he calls them rapists and murderers and continues with that negativity and said, by the way, border towns are safer than other towns. Look it up. It's just a thing. The crime rate in border towns is a lot less. It turns out the people who can walk or want to walk 1,000 miles for a better life really don't want to come here to do bad things, right? They want to come here to do good things. But, don't let the facts get in the way. Did Trump separate children from their families as a deterrent at the border? Yes, he did. Did any other president do that? No. There's ways of getting into this country the right way. But if you want to stop people or use a deterrent, separating kids from their parents is a completely malicious, sadistic move by a person who has absolutely no empathy. And the fact that his supporters jump up and down and cheer for it, they have no empathy either. And the fact that they don't even want to look it up to see what the crime rates are for immigrants and that they're a lot less, they don't even want to know that, because if you tell them the truth, they don't still want to know it. So that shows even more lack of empathy. Let's continue. Trump spends most of his time whining, crying, complaining, and playing the victim to elicit empathy, but doesn't seem to show any empathy for anybody else. His latest thing, I think just today or maybe yesterday, he's refusing to have a debate. Well, it's great when you're trying to debate a guy who's in his 80s that can't put a sentence together, but now you want to debate someone who's 20 years younger than you and that can actually speak and take you to task. Now you don't want to debate. That's not a strong man. That's a very wimpy man who's scared. That has nothing to do with power. It's a lot less than that. Let's go back, 30, 40 years ago. Let's talk about Trump's empathy for the Central Park Five. Not to go through the whole story, I don't want to bore anybody, but the Central Park Five, those 5 men, they were found innocent. There was DNA evidence to prove that they were innocent, and there was a person who confessed to the crime. So what happened? Trump still said that they should get the death penalty because they were black and they probably have done something wrong anyway. Okay, yeah, that's empathetic. How about the hurricane in Puerto Rico? Did he have empathy there? Well, ask the question, did he block aid to Puerto Rico? Yes, he did. Why did he do that? Because there's more liberals than conservatives in Puerto Rico, so he was trying to punish them. Did he reject California disaster relief after the forest fires because California votes liberal? Yes, he did. Again, he wants to be like a king. In other words, you have to do everything that he says and you have to agree with him 100%. You have to be on your knees asking for something. So because they voted liberal, he said, yeah, let the fires burn. Let's just do that. I mean, eventually he turned around, but how many people died in the process of waiting for the aid to come in because he was playing some power type of thing that he was trying to do, making everything incredibly political? Speaking of that, let's talk about Trump on COVID deaths. One of his comments was, well, that many people died. It is what it is. That's a direct quote there. It is what it is. It's been estimated that an extra 400,000 people died due to Trump not taking the pandemic seriously enough. And because part of it was he was encouraging conspiracy theories and encouraging false information that still goes on today. Listen, within half the amount of time, more people died from COVID deaths in the United States than died in World War II. Last time I looked, people were trying to kill people in World War II. People weren't trying to walk around kill people in the United States here. So twice as many people died of COVID inside the United States in about half the amount of time in World War II. And they're still going to say that COVID was a hoax. Way to go, Donald. Is that, and people say, well, too, it's only the old people. Listen, I have multiple, I don't even know how many, but enough, at least a handful or more clients whose fathers or grandfathers or grandmothers died. We're going to say, oh, it's okay. Let's not have any empathy because they're old. Makes no sense. No sense. It means that you have no empathy. Let's continue. Just the other day, I saw this. Donald Trump still making fun of Joe Biden, even though that he's not running for president anymore. Or should I say he's not going to seek election. He posts a crypt keeper picture. Now, I don't want to describe all that, but it's basically just a skeleton that's like 1,000 years old. Like, is that a leader of the free world or a person who wants to be the president of the United States? Or is that some first grader just being a jerk with the name calling? And again, even with Kamala, doesn't call her by the right name, and he's still making these racist, sexist comments. Empathy? He even said he wasn't going to be nicer. Has he mocked disabled people? Yes. Trump's message to parents after school shootings: get over it. Republicans blame Democrats for comparing Trump to Hitler. Not always a good thing to do because Hitler's on this extra level. However, J.D. Vance, who Trump picked to run for vice president with him, he himself called Trump an idiot and said that he was America's Hitler. So don't come crying with lack of empathy and saying that Democrats are these horrible people for mentioning that Trump acts like Hitler, because your own vice president nominee said the same thing. Let's talk about Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Trump cult followers tried to kidnap her. What was Trump's message? I think he tweeted, however he did it, but I think it was a tweet. He said, liberate Michigan, and he never condemned it. He thought it was funny. Okay, so a kidnapping attempt, probably going to try to kill her, and he's all about political violence. Okay, where's the empathy? None. He has never condemned right-wing militia groups or right-wing mass shooters or murderers. Let's go back a little bit and talk about Trump's actions during John McCain's funeral. You think he could be decent during somebody's funeral. Well, he continued to call him a loser, and he said he was never a hero. And I think he said something to the effect of he likes his heroes that don't get caught. He's making fun of him that he was a prisoner of war. Now, listen, the guy died. Can you show any empathy or care whatsoever? So much that all the living ex-presidents were invited to the funeral. Guess who wasn't invited? The President of the United States was not invited to John McCain's funeral. Why? Because he's an unempathetic jerk. And his supporters, that should have been a cause, right? That should have been a deal breaker right there for him ever thinking, that anybody thinking he's a decent person. Oh, what else do we have here? The easy ones that are so easy to follow here. January 6th, he attempted to overthrow the United States. Trump expressed support for hanging of his vice president. And he praised the January 6th attackers. Interesting, too, at the convention that was just about a week ago. Did you see Mike Pence there, his vice president that worked with him for 4 years? The reason why Mike Pence wasn't there to support him is because Donald Trump tried to have him killed. And you're still going to vote for that guy. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. What else do we have here? He also called people in the military suckers and losers. So let me finish with this. It's reasonable to show empathy for living things, including Donald Trump, because that's what good people do. But it's also reasonable to point out that Trump is a threat, and he's a threat to values, virtues, morals, and anything that's decent in this world. He's also an enemy of democracy. He's a wannabe dictator, and he's used fraud and he's used force to overturn an election and to try to overthrow the U.S. government. Oh, and by the way, with this assassination attempt, what did he do? Within the week, he's selling sneakers now to cash in on that as well. And he still hasn't called any of the people who got hurt in that audience. Yeah, no empathy whatsoever. So what's the final thing here? Listen, if you're a good person, you need to show empathy. However, I don't want to hear it from Trump supporters saying that other people don't show empathy towards him. We do, but where is your empathy for other human beings? And the fact that you even think to consider to vote for this guy, you have a serious empathy and compassion problem. Hopefully this was enlightening to you in some way or entertaining. My name is Joe Peroni. This is the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.